Hello and welcome to a kind of rescheduled Thursday night forum. Russell's Wi-Fi is playing up again as usual. I think his hotspot isn't very good either, so I just thought let's try and keep the show alive tonight and just do a wee quick judgment day. I think Russell might be bringing up comments off the screen, but his Wi-Fi is no cutting it, unfortunately. So nothing I can do about it. We just need to go on with the show tonight. And I think that, before I start, I'll do the housekeeping. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share. Bus 1888 is your code on piesports.com. That gives you 12.5% off. Don't forget that. Bus 1888 on piesports.com. Okay, I'll just start off with the first subject Russell was going to bring up, and that's the proposed new 10 league format or 14 or 16 league format that this new review is brought in because of the suggested fixture congestion. I mean, I don't really know where to start with this because we all know the situation. There's too many games of football and European football in general, but I think it's more to do with international football. You've got Nation League constantly and all the rest of it. So for some reason, they're blaming UEFA for this and blaming the Champions League. 2 extra games is causing fixture congestion. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's a lot of shite. I think the SFA are one of the teams that are one of the governing bodies that's just pandering to this, and we all know that there's far too much football and far too much experience for football fans as it is now without bringing in these daft qualifiers and qualifiers for qualifiers, and it just seems to be getting put on the back burner that the domestic football is what really matters, you know what I mean? And I was speaking about this with my dad yesterday, and thank God it's been kind of muted tonight that Anthony Joseph said that the 10 league format will probably be kicked out straight away. It's no reached the amount of backing that needed to get it through at the next stage, which is pretty good because the folk who will suffer is us, as Celtic fans, because what will happen is we've already seen our season books go for 21 games this season with 2 cup games and a friendly doing the 18-19. What they want next? They want a 16 game season ticket. Is that the next step for us? You know what I mean? We're getting less and less and less for more money, and I think the Celtic fans, it's a Celtic pod, I'll look at it for a Celtic view if I want to, and Celtic fans are suffering as it is with all this stuff, you know what I mean? We've got our keeper who's been one of the star men of the season. The guy's been outstanding for Celtic. He's made a couple of mistakes recently, but he can't be perfect. But he's now potentially going to miss potentially trophy day, a potential cup final, a potential treble. The timeline's kind of been varied between 5 and 6 weeks, but we could potentially miss somebody of that importance when the league could be 3 points a gap. It's 13 because Celtic made it 13, but it could easily be 3 points. And that's got to do with these stupid, pointless international football fixtures, you know what I mean? And if the reason being that we need to, expand the amount of days that the countries can create spaces for football games and reschedule games, surely the easiest one today is to look at the international football. I mean, cards on the table, I've always said that teams like Dunfermline and Partick Thistle in particular, Falkirk, the bigger clubs, these clubs need to be in the top league, but through merit, of course, merit alone and nothing else. But so a 14 or even 16, I wouldn't be against it, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be against going to a team, going to Morton or Wednesday night, these kind of places. I'd be up my street. So I'm not got an issue with that at all. But whose idea was this? The idea came for this. It's 3 initials, 3 acronym, but similar they've looked at the fixture congestion. I think there was a problem in January with Partick Thistle, believe it or not, but they couldn't reschedule games, and then last year you had Dundee and Rangers causing a bit of stushy, and they've looked at it and they've said like we need to free up as many weeks as possible. When you can't have championship teams not being able to play midweek because the football at a higher level is being played, I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And for them to come up with this idea that they'll blame it on UEFA, and that is they've blamed it on the Champions League format being extended. It's 2 games extra max minimum, and potentially 4 if you, let's be honest, Celtic aren't going to get to a final. So if you get to the stage where you're getting 2 games, 8 games, then potentially another 2 more for Celtic. I mean, is another 4 games compared to last season's 6 game setup that much of a big deal for Hearts and Hibs and Kilmarnock to restructure their leagues? I mean, their season about. I mean, we've now seen Friday night football become the norm in this country. You look on telly on a Friday night, you have Falkirk v Partick Thistle. Well, how can we not have Celtic playing a Friday night, or Rangers, or anybody else have 2 fixtures on a Friday night, giving the European games, even a Tuesday night? That gives you 4 days to work on for the next match. So there's obvious solutions there, but this country does nothing obvious or structured or makes sense. You know what I mean? Look at how we structure every deal that we make. You know, the SFA, they just seem to make deals on a whim. They don't seem to look at tomorrow. They think about today, and this is exactly what it is just now. I think they're totally self-preservation just now. They're trying to get as much money in, as much fixtures in international football, and get themselves into the big boys table. It's got to be teams like Celtic and Rangers and fans like us that's going to suffer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind the fact that there's a potential having an extra 4 teams or 2 teams having a different team to play each season. That's quite exciting. That's quite different, if not exciting. But what's making me feel a bit sick is the fact that their first go-to suggestion was to make it a 10-team league, plus take away the top 10, the top 6 split. Now, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, like the top 6 this season is down to the last 2 games before the window. So there's still fixtures just now that are meaningful to teams. You know what I mean? There's European football at stake. There's teams trying to get in the top 6 for the extra money. There's teams trying to no drop out the top 6. Take that away, and then other than Celtic Rangers, a wee battle for 3rd or 4th. Then the rest just are in middle of nowhere until you go to the bottom 2. It just makes no sense. Why would you turn something that's potentially got a bit of excitement for the other clubs? Doesn't excite Celtic fans or Rangers fans, but see if you're a Hibs fan trying to stay in the top 6, or a Dundee United fan trying to stay in the top 6, and you've got 4 points in a gap with 2 games to go before the split, that's something to hold on to. You know what I mean? That's something to interest you, something to get bums on seats. You know what I mean? And whoever's go-to answer was to shorten the league to 10 games and take away the split. It just stinks. The absolute fucking dough balls that are running Scottish football. It's they tap the bottom. You know what I mean? Even when you think about the 16 team or the 14 team league, which looks a bit better than what the other option was, it's going to affect the lower leagues and all. And they're talk about the bringing more teams in to like a bigger division below. I read, and you get teams in the Highland League getting told they can't compete into the Challenge Cup, but they're letting in Brecon, who get relegated for the leagues, and they're letting in East Stirling, but they've kept these clubs in the Challenge Cup, and it just all stinks of utter craziness. Nobody understands it, you know what I mean? And quite rightfully, a lot of the Highland clubs are not happy with the fact that Brecon and East Stirlingshire and Berwick Rangers, I think it was, are all still getting the Challenge Cup places to soften the blow of relegation. But I'm sorry, relegation is like relegation. I mean, you need to put up with the consequences of that. But and that's probably an advantage for teams like East Stirling, who can maybe draw a Partick Thistle away from home, draw 2,000-3,000, then they've got a financial advantage of the other teams in the back of that. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, I just don't understand anything that they do in the top division. And the only thing they've managed to do right this season is make VAR more transparent. We giving you the referees audio and speak once a month, but all that's done is highlight how bad they are. It's no help the situation. It's just clarified and confirmed everything we know about the SFA for top to bottom. They just are clueless fucking numpties. And the only thing they did right is highlight how bad they are. You know what I mean? It just doesn't even make sense. And I don't know if there's any comments on that. Russell wanted to bring any up or anything. I can't really see the comments because my screen's unfolding now. But unless no, well, certainly haven't come out and said anything. But I know Neil McCann for Rangers has distanced himself from 10 leagues, so he's probably had the authorisation to say that. Motherwell I think St Johnstone, surprise, they're probably going to go down this season. I've said no. And I think I might have read Hearts as well. So that's 4 of the top clubs in the league. Celtic all still on the fence, but Bhoycie, I mean, Celtic always keep their cards close to their chest. They try to look for the general consensus before they start to make things clear to the rest of the football world. I think Celtic will be keeping a very close eye on this. I mean, because it will have consequences. Do I think Celtic want less league games this season? No, I don't, because 2 matches to Celtic is probably £1.5–2 million. They're not going to reduce their season ticket prices, but they'll reduce us a home match. If the season goes down by 2 games, that's 1 less home match. And for what I'm reading this week, the thing that's pivotal. So I know this is that Sky are demanding that there's 4 derby matches each season, or that's got to stay the way it is. So even the top 10, even the 10 league, the way they were trying to structure it was just bizarre, mate, and I don't understand any of it. So there's 14, so that basically change. No, well, just reading the article I read, no, because they could still structure it well. There's like, for 16, there'll be a top 8 and a boat, mate, and you know, it's like they'll maybe split after like 22 games, and then there'll be the way. But I did read that, according to Sky, have demanded the Edinburgh derbies, Glasgow derby, and Dundee derbies are pivotal in the deal, and they've demanded that the 4 Glasgow ones are definitely the key feature in this. You can only have 3 derbies guaranteed in Edinburgh because of the top 6 and the rest of it, and probably the same with Dundee. I mean, we've seen one of these teams drop out a couple of times, but I think the Glasgow derby is set in stone. So that's probably the only good thing. I think that the top, I think a 14, personally, a 14 team league would probably be okay for Celtic. You know what I mean? They'll get an extra game with it. You know what I mean? They might even fucking extend the games played. Who knows? I mean, Celtic don't think the same way the SFA think. The SFA are the one with the fixture headache. They've accepted FIFA's or UEFA's Nation League and all the rest. They've accepted that, right? Then blamed the Champions League. But they've accepted that, knowing that it's going to create 4, 5, 6 weeks of extra football a season, in terms of, like, you know, a double header against another team in Iceland or something. Because they've got to be away for a week and then play the 2 games. They've created that monster, and now they're trying to scramble to find ways to shoehorn in the domestic football. I think we should be shoehorning in the international football, not all the way about. I mean, domestic football and the paying public and the Sky Sports deals, they all finance and they all get the excitement for football in general. That feeds international football, you know what I mean? So they're forgetting where their bread's buttered here. And I think if they need to refocus on the fixtures, 100% they should be refocusing on how many international football games have been played. We've already heard managers in England, the EPL, who have got a lot of influence there. They're now suggesting there's too many games being played. I think Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers said the same thing last year, and also these things are got to be listened to, and I think that's the only way we can move forward with at least a vision that Ibdy's behind on this SPL made up club. So, what this is true, boys, is pointed to the fact that the SPFL is made up of all the clubs, and I think there's like a board that represent so many clubs that sit at the head of it, but basically they all vote, and he just represents it. You're totally right, Bhoycie, but I think that the fact that they're bringing this option to the table, I just think it stinks at, you know, like, them trying to make sure that the international football is secure, and then let's just try and mess about with something. I don't think that to say Scottish football isn't broke is a lie and an exaggeration. I think there's a lot of flaws in Scottish football, but one of the things that isn't broke, I don't think, is the setup. The top 6 and bottom 6 was strange when it came in. I think it works for a league their size. I really do. Expand the leagues. I think we've all probably spoken about that and thought, Falkirk, big club, Partick Thistle, get them all in, of course, bring them all in on merit, first of all. But to make it shorter is just bizarre. And for their preferred option to be make it shorter, just so, and they don't kid on here, just so they can reduce the amount of games we're playing domestically. I think that just stinks, you know what I mean? And luckily, right off the bat, it's been kind of like flung out the window that the 10 league is just not going to happen. It's like turkeys vote for Christmas. Outside Celtic and Rangers, who probably don't care really what teams got them doing. The rest of them do, because there is potential for an Aberdeen to have a bad season, or a Hearts, or a Kilmarnock, and get back down again, and they'll not like the sound of that. When doing up in our game, I'll have a listen to the fans. We need a bigger league, which is hopefully give us better standard of football. Well, this is true, Gary, because this is Jerry Burns, comes in there saying that this is when do the people in power listen to the football fans in general, and he's totally right. I don't think they do. In fact, I don't know if you remember, there was the fan census. We get them every so often for Scottish football, and then we get them for Celtic every time they want to pretend they're listening to us. Have you ever filled out a survey and thought you saw any action that's been on the back of that survey? No, I don't think so. I mean, the only thing I saw this season I think came from the survey in the summer was they asked us if there was material available online that you could pay a charge to watch, would you go for it? And I said, I go for it. It's got to be exciting new material. And they've released United States backstage access for last season, and that's all I've seen. The kiosks in the stadium are still bad. The paint's still all chipped. There's no hot water in the toilets. There's no paper towels in the toilets. You know, the main stand's still a riot for the people paying the excess money, and they don't listen to anybody. You know what I mean? And even the SFA, they send out sometimes at the fan census, and it's very strange and bizarre questions. It doesn't really. You've really got much thoughts on, you know what I mean? And I don't understand most of it at all. Like the question they should be answering is, are you enjoying the football? Is there anything that on a match day that's making your experience less enjoyable? How can we counteract that? None of that's ever asked of you, and that's where Jerry's got a point. They don't listen to the fans. So, but the good thing is about the small clubs, Jerry, is they need to listen to the fans. We've got 53,000 season ticket holders. If 5% of them drop out, another 5% probably just jump in. Whereas a Stenhousemuir has maybe got a core fan base of 800 fans. When they take action and they shout, you know, the clubs need to listen to them, and they've got the same vote as other clubs as well on certain issues. So that's probably the only thing. But in terms of like the governing bodies and Celtic and Rangers too, they don't really give a fuck, mate, and we see that very often, and it will happen more often and more often with this year. Split is brilliant for the league and works with 12, 14 or 16. The Derby's TV deal was costing the domestic game. Is costing the domestic game evolving. Aye, you know what I mean. They did about that. They did about that, Bhoycie, and I think this is where the status quo of 12, 14 or 16 comes into play. Like, there is a wee bit more excitement, a wee bit more focus if you do see like a fixture you've not saw in a long time. You know, I'm not suggesting that a Morton come to Celtic Park is a fixture that you tune into if you want a Celtic fan. But see, like a Falkirk and Morton on a Wednesday night, you know, in the top league, that's a game you'd probably watch, or Gotty Morton on a Wednesday night or whatever. Or Partick Thistle is always a nice wee away game. That brings a wee bit more, you know, a wee bit more, you know, focus on it in terms of. I think Scottish football is only people who watch Scottish football. Most people in England will maybe tune into Scottish football. It'll maybe be a derby match, it'll be a fleeting fancy visit, or it'll be a Cooten. A lot of them don't tune in the same way that half of your country tunes into Southampton v Burnley. It doesn't happen, you know what I mean? So we've got to focus on really genuinely what makes the key or the core Scottish football support watchers, what keeps them watching. And I think it's been proven when you look at some of the figures that the Friday night football, I mean, that's not just Championship fans watching that. There's a lot of people sitting there for different leagues, even Celtic Rangers fans, a Friday night with a beer, and they'll tune into that. This is where it works, you know what I mean? Scottish football is its own kind of beast, you know what I mean? It's its own monster. So we're never ever going to get the the guys sitting in England to tune in. They'd rather watch the Liverpool v Chelsea match the next morning if they're going to tune into. You get the odd folk that watch any football. Don't get me wrong, but we need to focus on what works in Scotland and what brings the Scottish viewers in watching Scottish football, and that is expanding leagues. That is making things different. To shorten the league, create less money for the teams below the top league, and then shorten the promotions and take away the split. It just seems to be they're setting in stone so too many things. With the split, with the promotions two up, two down potentially, there's so many things that can happen right up to the last minute. If you start setting in stone that only one can go down and there's no split, you're potentially going to end a season with 5-6 games to go. And we saw what happened. The split came in for a reason, and it seems to have worked. Bhoycie and again for the podcast. Dunfermline v Falkirk's top flight would be mega. Sells it every week, 10k plus. That, without a doubt, I mean, the rivalries in that lower league is crazy. I mean, some of the things you see on YouTube and that, these fixtures, Dunfermline, Falkirk, Raith Rovers, Dunfermline, Falkirk, Ayr United games, these teams bring a lot to Scottish football. You know what I mean? They bring a lot. Just because we don't focus on it, because we're too busy looking at Celtic Park and all the rest of it. Some of the fixtures you see down there, there's like 3,000-4,000 on a Friday night. We thought we've got a lot more things to do at that time. They could easily see a Falkirk and Dunfermline promotion battle or relegation battle or top 6 battle, whatever, get into the high 8, 9, 10,000. There's no doubt about it. These clubs are, in Scottish terms, massive with the top 4 or 5 teams. You know, they can compete with teams like Kilmarnock for figures. You know what I mean, for bums on seats, and that's where we need to start getting real here and start focusing on what's working. Like that fixture that Bhoycie just mentioned there, that works. That works. You know what I mean? It works less well when it's in a jumped up League One, as they might call it, a 15, 16 team League One, where there's less money to go about, less chance to get promoted, and then less chance for these bigger teams to be demoted. It's just too many teams languishing. It just makes no sense. Chris, T.N.F, do you agree that it's a damning indictment of Scottish football as marketed, that we are on the mercy of the broadcaster? No, I don't, Chris. I think it's an indictment on world football, mate. I think you look at anybody that watches the NFL since the early 90s, I mean, there's not been a second of that goes by without a TV break or some sort of sponsored break or ad break or whatever, and it's just got wilder there, and surely, slowly but surely, it found its way into Scottish football and British football and European football. Scottish football doesn't get the marketing that we think it deserves, because I hate to say this, there's only 2 teams that matter in the league, mate, and I think when Sky Sports offers a deal, which I think is probably not as bad as what folk think, because per game it works out more than what they get in Holland, who they show every game. You know what I mean? So the deal itself isn't that bad. The marketing and how we promote it, that's Sky Sports, mate. Because Scottish football push for more airtime in terms of like promoting our games when the games are on air. 100%. I'm fed up watching big Celtic games and they're advertising a Sylvester Stallone film at 6:30 the next night. And you're like, nobody said to watch that shit. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, and it's quite demeaning to our league. It's quite patronising that they're advertising movies when Celtic are playing. You know what I mean? That is the fucking movie. That is the premiere. Anybody that's watching that game is focusing on Celtic, mate, or maybe the opposition if they're a Rangers fan or the other team's fans. You know what I mean? And then I spoke about this before. It's not just the fact that we're on Sky Sports payroll and they pay us a certain that could be deemed a pittance. That's not how it works. When Adidas come in and talk to Celtic about a sponsorship deal, Celtic can say, look, we're on the biggest platform in European football. Our games are showcased on Sky Sports News, on Sky Sports. That's the biggest subscription platform in Europe for sports. Our games are on that platform. That elevates how much money you get for your sponsorships. I think just about the £2 or £3 million a year you get off of them. Now you flip that and say we're part of this new just say we call Via player bought us over, and we're all getting £10 million a season each, and we're all loving it. That before you know it, your viewing figures goes for a potential outreach of hundreds of millions, and it shortens and shortens and shortens, and then the percentage of viewers shortens and shortens and shortens, and then your potential to sell advertising, sell image rights, and sell that goes down as well. So there's more to this than just what Sky Sports gives, and I think that's how the club look at it, is the platform which we are broadcast on is the selling point. That is the money, because the £2-3 million a year, Celtic could knock that back in an instant. They could bring it to Celtic TV and probably make the same amount of money. You know, they could charge £30 a year and show you every Celtic match, daily content, and people would pay it rather than paying Sky Sports for it. But the potential viewing figures, and if you look at how your TV guide is structured, you go up and doing channels, you're flicking through channels, and you come onto something and you watch it. The chances of that happening on a pay-per-view channel is almost zilch. You know what I mean? You don't go flick through pay-per-view and go, oh, I'll watch this. But you might do that if you're scrolling through. And that's how Sky Sports and that sell their packages to teams like Celtic. And that's how Celtic sell their airtime, viewing time, the airtime to potential advertisers like Adidas, like Nike, anybody you see on the billboards. That's how it's sold, and that does matter, and it's a small part of the deal that folk don't maybe think about when they see the headlines. Bhoycie, Sky offered a mega deal back in 2004, which Setanta offers slightly more. We patched Sky after the growth of years of commitment for the first offer, and Setanta folded early bells, correct? Sky bitter, end of. Aye. I mean, of course, I mean, there's definitely, Bhoycie's got a point there. We spoke about this. He was in a meeting when they worked for Sky, and they spoke about this, that's exactly what happened, you know what I mean? I think the guy who's now working in Italy somewhere, the guy who was in charge of the SPFL at the time, he's confirmed these stories, you know what I mean? And it backfired. And we've now saw Viaplay fold, and Setanta Sports we folded, Premier Sports have been sold on and bought back here. There's only one monster that survived all of these shake-ups, and that's Sky Sports. And Sky Sports don't survive because of Sky Sports or backing Scottish football. Sky Sports survive because Sky in general is the EPL, it is the EFL, and it is the leagues bubble. That is Sky. That is Sky. I mean, your broadband and that just pays the bills. They don't make money off that. They make money off of advertising. Every TV station makes money off of advertising, except the BBC, who make money off of charging you for no advertising. So that's how you make money out of TV, and that's what's happened to these pay-per-view services are folding because they're no part of the mainstream. Unless something changes overnight and there's an actual proper rival for Sky. They've tried. Remember NTL? They tried to be a rival for Sky. We've tried. There's been a lot of different things, you know what I mean. And they fold for a reason. They just can't compete with the numbers. There's big investment for this flat its arse, and Sky Sports probably have a wee bit of stinking their nose for how they perceive Scottish football to shaft them back in the day. It shouldn't be the case, and it might not be the case, but it probably is a wee bit of that still in the back of their throats. But we don't understand is, and what folk don't understand is, there's folk at the top of our football pyramid in Scotland who should still have the backbone to fight these decisions and ask for more without bending the knee at every opportunity. Can we squeeze more money out of Sky Sports? I think we can. Can we ask for more advertising? Can we ask for more promotion of our game? For instance, we start the league sometimes 2-3 weeks before English football. If I was Scottish football, I'd be asking for 100% focus on Sky Sports. They've got nothing to show. It's cricket and all that shit. You get 4 games on a week. Get 4 or 5 games a week on Scottish football. Every hour, every half hour, get interviews with players on Sky Sports News. Build it up for weeks, because you go that 2-3 week run where there's nothing on, and then your everyday football fan might tune in and just do something crazy like watch a Celtic match that who normally don't. And this is the things that I think sometimes we're just happy to have a deal. We're just happy to, like sometimes they're just happy to be in the room. But when you get guys who have got a business background in English cricket. I think that Doncaster's fan and the Liberal, I think the English guy that ended up getting put back in England again. I can't remember his name, but there's a few of them who've been in the top our league who've no involvement in Scottish football whatsoever, and that even goes to the decision making processes with the referee panels and all that. You've got nomads and people who never played the game. You get people who are just ill-equipped to make decisions, and yet they're having season-altering decisions at their fingertips. I don't understand it. Bhoycie, BT offered less for full rights to all games than they had paid for 50% in 2016 deal. Well, there you go. You know, I mean, that's somebody else chancing their arse coming to Scottish football and think that they've got a market, or they've got something that they've got tied up, and then insult us with an offer like that. I mean, that's what happened to Scottish football, and the reason why people are so comfortable to come in and try and give us offers like that is because we're just so weak. You know what I mean? We're just like a wounded animal. We're just like, as I say, we're happy to be in the room, and I genuinely believe that there's room, there's scope to improve, but we hold ourselves back by being a bit, hopeless at times. San Fran Celtic, step one, stop teams from keeping empty seats. Now, I mean, I'm the first person warning about this. San Fran spot on. I mean, how many times have we watched Hibernian and Motherwell and these clubs tell Celtic no to more tickets, Rangers no to more tickets, and then there's 5,000 empty seats. Hibernian is a prime example. For no reason whatsoever, they said you'll get no more seats at Easter Road, and then they just close the stand, and you're like, I mean, it's like, as Rogers said last year, we must have the richest league in the country, in the world, because we knock back money left, right, and centre. We knock back punters. Can you imagine going to cinema and saying to them, I'll take 4 for Home Alone, whatever, and they say, no, you're only allowed 1, because the other 3 would rather have empty. You know, it just makes no sense. And I actually read the other day there was a championship game, and it was like they advertised tickets must be bought tonight, no online sales tomorrow, and no pay to gate. And I went, who would have? That's just the most bizarre thing. You can't wake up in the morning and go, it's a nice day out there. So grab the rain, let's go to the match. This is the championship in Scotland. I mean, who are they to fucking knock back tickets for anybody? You know what I mean? To anybody. So it makes no surprises to me that there's clubs out there who can't wait to say no to Celtic and Rangers. And as far as I'm concerned, I would when these clubs come crawling back and asking, oh, listen, do you want me a seats? We should say no. I just said, no, you're all right. I mean, St Mirren 2 years ago, they told their fan base, okay, we've not back Celtic and Rangers. They're only getting a small allocation, but we would ask each supporter to donate £35 per person to cover the costs of revenue lost. And I don't know how many folk paid it, but that is the most bizarre thing, you know. I mean, what really, man? It's like go to a pub and I'm telling you, I'll just not back that guy a pint because he's drunk, but that'll be £2.50, please, because you need to pay for it. You know what I mean? I don't understand it at all. It's like, it's just boggles my mind that we're in a country that when a footballing country that just likes to eat itself alive, and every week you're just waiting for the next mistake, every single week, and it's just you've got a bunch of fucking monkeys running the place. CJ, with losing 3 times VR in a row to Rangers ruin a treble for you. It would ruin my day, week, potentially the month, but when it ruin my. If I'm at Hampden and win the treble, mate, I'm not going to walk out that stadium going like, our Rangers beat us, and it didn't matter. Well, these games do matter. Sorry, that's never going to be the case. But I would like, I remember O'Neill's second season. Nobody seems to remember this. They won one cup that season, but that is a total. You look at a video for that season, you're just thinking in your mind, success. That's what you think about. You forget about the 2 cup finals we lost that year. You know what I mean? Well, one anyway to Rangers. I think I don't know who the one was. Probably Rangers too. You don't think about that. You know what I mean? You just think of won the league, and we've saw with that won the treble. You know what I mean? Let's not pretend that the last 10 years is what Celtic have been built on. We don't win trebles willy-nilly. I mean, The first one I saw was 2000, and that was the first one we had in 36 years or something. You don't see them very often. I mean, my dad saw 2 in his life until he was 40-year-old. We've saw what? 7 in the last 9-10 years. That's just abnormal. You know what I mean? So I don't take these things for granted. I want to win every trophy. Don't get me wrong. So it's not that I take it for granted, but I expect to win every match. But see, you don't win every trophy. It's not like it's been a disaster. So to win a treble is a outstanding feat by any club. So them beating us, honestly, that hurts me so much. Honestly, I would take a defeat off any team in Europe. I'd take a last minute loss against Bayern Munich 10 times over than to see us lose against Rangers. It breaks my heart. Trust me, I think we're all the same. It just hits different. It just feels so different. It ruins your day, your week, your month. Will it take my season? No. I think it would totally. It'd probably give a wee bit of quiet reflection on how the team's been built and the flaws in the setup more than anything else. But I would take those if the option was, could I take 3 losses and win a treble? I think with OCI. In fact, if we win the league, I would still take the other losses if I could be guaranteed at the start of the season. But I tell you something, the joy of winning the trophies, it lingers in their mouth longer than beating us. I can assure you, they hate the fact that they have to look up in the sky and see fireworks and watch us on the news in George Square celebrating. They hate it. They hate it. So beating us might not be all it's cracked up to be in their eyes. I think they'll pretend, but they do a lot of pretending in that mob. So I think for me, it's all about winning the treble. If you can do both and get a result at Ibrox, then fantastic. Let's see. Dark topic, Mark. Fuck, story of my life. I get it, but would you really love to hear you touch on the victims? I'm personally glad we've got some sort of justice / closure. No doubt the animals will still torture them about it. To be honest with you, mate, I feel like it's been a long time coming. Personally, I feel like Celtic should have owned up to whatever part they had a long time ago. Pretending that the boys' club wasn't part of the club was a bit pathetic and sad and distasteful. And I don't think Celtic are different from any other company. You know what I mean? If they've got justice to give, they should be given justice. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's a topic that it's discussed openly online and these kind of platforms. And it's for a reason. There's a lot of legal issues and the rest of it. But one thing about legal issues is you can give your opinion as long as you don't state it to be fact. My opinion is that Celtic knew this was coming and they've held off to try and reduce the compensation, to kind of grind the folk into the ground a wee bit, and I find that distasteful. But at least there's a bit of closure for some of the people. Now, on a small side note, if there's 4 or 5 teams in Scottish football. I think Partick Thistle, Hibs is one, Rangers is one. There's a few clubs watching this situation very closely, by the way, because there's litigation coming their way. I think, from what I was reading, there's other clubs in the dock potentially over this. So if Celtic was a test case, then there could be meant to come, you know what I mean? And this is about corporate liability insurance covers, so there's no danger that this is going to affect Celtic as a club the way that some folk were thinking they were putting money aside to pay for the victims. That's where that's just corporate liability, and that's where that insurance comes into play. And I think Celtic are covered with that. I think Celtic are that silly. I mean, there were only 2 clubs that had fucking pandemic insurance, and Celtic must have saw this coming, and they did it. Celtic and Dundee, believe it or not. I mean, who knew? But they seen it coming, or they at least covered their arse for it. So I can't see Celtic being that naive. I think Celtic would have had all their premiums up to date, and I think Celtic would have paid for that, no problem. But I hope the other 30% of the victims who you get to be paid out, I hope they get the same sort of justice and get closure. And I think it will never happen, but I think the mudslinging in Scottish football about this needs to stop. There's nothing to be gained by calling people names like the paedophiles and the rest of it, and these blanket names that gets called to Celtic fans or the club. There's no pleasure in that, you know what I mean? And some folk just want to sling mud at Celtic because of their enemy, bitter, vile bitterness. Sorry, that's what it is, you know what I mean? And there's more things grow in this country, you know what I mean? You get racism everywhere you look and all the rest of it, and there's more things that's happening just now that we can fix, that instead of focusing on things that happened 30, 40 years ago and using it as a stick to beat up Celtic fans for. I think the things that have happened to these poor people, it's got nothing to do with anybody sitting at Celtic Park just now, or in the stand, or in the director's box, or anywhere else amongst the club. I think that's been kicked out a long time ago, but the club still need to and will find some sort of solution, and I hope this does put a wee bit of closure on that. But I think there'll be some clubs in now just waiting for the door to go, because I think it's probably a bit of a test case. I think Thompson Solicitors have got a few clients and a few clubs waiting for the letters to fall down through the letterbox in a minute, I think. But right, we go here to the Celtic getting rid of season ticket cards for next season using barcodes sent to your phone. Now, this is all stemmed from the rumours about last year and now the Hampden app. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. I'll just fill you in. So when you bought your tickets for the semi-final last week, you were given an email saying that your tickets will be sent to an app, a Hampden Stadium app, which will have a barcode or a QR code that will be activated and sent out to you 7 days before the match. Now, the fear was automatically that folk were going to be unable to sell tickets, give tickets to a friend, pass tickets back to other people, or because some folk will maybe have the full supporters bus, and they'll just dish out the cards to anybody that's not showing up. They'll give them to family members, anybody in the pub. There was a real worry that's going to stop after happening. Hampden have backtracked on the semi-final. From what I read, that won't be happening. There's still an avenue for folks to keep tickets away and all the rest of it. I think that's the future. I think your season card is going to be a thing of the past. Paper tickets are going to be a thing of the past. And I think now we're going to be seeing these barcodes. Now, I reckon you can. It's going to be about trust. That's the only thing. You can pass on a barcode. It'll probably be an app that you log into, and I can give somebody my app login. You know what I mean? They can log in and use it, because it can't be on one device only, because you could have your phone. You could lose your phone during the week. You know what I mean? Then you go, or you could smash your phone on the way to the stadium. There'll be more ways to log into this so it works. You know what I mean? And so that will be still a thing. It'll still be if they're already talking about backtracking on it at Hampden, then Celtic don't want empty seats. The idea that Celtic prefer to have empty chairs that's ridiculous. All right, they've sold the ticket, but that's one less potential pie, one less potential programme. Half-time draw. They want bums on seats. They want bums on seats. Technically, behind closed doors, if you ask them, they don't care if I go to the game, or my brother goes to the game, or my dad goes to the game. They don't care. See if somebody goes to the game, they've got the money for it already, right? They don't really care, right? They want you to use the official avenues and try and buy general sale. But if it's already sold, they would rather somebody was in the stadium, potentially go to the kiosks and spending money. They would rather that, trust me. So I know there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of talk in my work about it as well. I don't think it's going to happen like that. I think the very, very worst case scenario is if Celtic put a stop to that, there'll be some sort of buyback or sell back scheme. Celtic will rather find a way that it benefits them and us. But there is a bit of worry about that just now, and I think the Hampden app is really, really put people's laser focus on this. But it's watch this space stuff. I'd be surprised if that happens, mate. Hard to do it yourself, Matt, but I enjoyed it. Cheers, mate. Oh, cheers, Jim. No problem, San Fran. No, it's Russell's Wi-Fi is fucked. You know what I mean? We thought we'd still try and do something if anybody's waiting for the show. It's no problem at all. We're here anyway, but it's been good. It's a bit different, but if it works, it works. Just let us know in the comments, and again, like, subscribe, share the pod where you can, and when you can, especially anybody who's never watched the pod before. Don't show them the next one, because they'll not watch it again. Let's be honest. Who's going to watch me? But again, just try and forward the podcast with anybody you want to watch it. Mark, I received an EPT. I have a few EPTs in my time, but I'll try and avoid tax as much as possible, mate. But it's been a good half hour or whatever it is on the pod. Thanks to anybody that's tuned in. I think it's probably been a hard watch for some of these, especially if you're expecting Russell to be on. He'll be on next time, or I'm sure he'll get his Wi-Fi up soon, but it's just where he stays. Sometimes it's a bit hard for him to get it. Again, thanks for watching. I don't know what day is it, Thursday. Probably have Phil back tomorrow for the Friday feeling, and then you've got potentially post-match on Sundays after the St Johnstone game on Sunday. I think you might find that Russell may have it fixed by then. Never know. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, likes, subscribe, slag Bhoycie's hair, you name it. And go and get a suntan and let's get a sun. Thanks, guys. Cheers.